Hello, everyone. I am Estela Mata from Looms for Lupus.
And I am Juana Mata. We are the Mata sisters from Looms for Lupus, needing a community of hope.
Yes, and we are so excited today because we are going to be talking about lupus and mental health. And we have a special guest. You might already know him. And for those of you that haven't, just wait a little bit and we'll introduce him. So what I do want to start with is, welcome again to our this live symposium is sponsored by GSK. Thank you for the sponsorship. And what we do as Looms for Lupus is we raise awareness about autoimmune conditions such as lupus and other overlapping conditions such as fibromyalgia and mental health. And we know and understand that living with a chronic and or autoimmune condition could be life-changing. However, we also know that you can continue to thrive despite these conditions. And that is why we are here to raise awareness, to let you know you're not alone, and to support you. And that is one of the things that we have in common with our guest today, with a friend of ours that we call him friend now because we met him a couple of years ago. And, ever since, we met him, we knew he was going to go to a lot of places, and we knew we were going to continue to work together. So we do have a special guest today, Mr. Emmett Henderson III. He is the CEO of Mayo Lupus Warriors Corp. And I will, right before he says hello to us, I want to just briefly let you know that today we'll have him on. And we're also going to be talking about lupus. What is lupus? If this is the first time you're tuning in, we will talk about what is lupus, lupus and mental health. And then we're also going to be talking about the National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, which is actually just started. It took effect, I believe, last year, 2021, when they launched and they wanted to raise awareness for the minority communities. Because as you all know, with the pandemic, it did impact everyone, just like mental health does. However, minority groups are disproportionately affected, just like lupus and other autoimmune conditions. So with that being said, I will introduce our friend Emmitt Henderson. He was born in the Philippines in 1970 and was moved to the United States a few months later with his mother and his father. His childhood was normal until he started getting sick and had rashes and fevers at a young age of 10 years old. He maintained as much normalcy as he could until the illness faded and, on its own. He continued high school, where he had his first child at the age of 18. His daughter followed at the age of 22. Emmett was always career-minded and had good work ethics. His career began in the automotive industry, where he excelled in pay and in his position. At the age of 25, and this was back in 1995, he was a service manager for the automotive repair shop, where he started developing a lot of joint pains and experiencing fatigue. After getting medical attention, Emmett was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease that is called systemic lupus and lupus nephritis. He endured major organ failures, multiple surgical operations, 2 transplants, 2 joint replacements, additional autoimmune diseases, multiple emergency room visits, mental instability, insecurities, and financial hardships due to this disease throughout all of these years. And in 2009, a diagnosed brain disease ended his career in the automotive repair. He used this time to work and start his nonprofit organization called Mayo Lupus Warriors Corp. He started the organization to spread lupus awareness, to support and encourage mental health, and to educate the men that also get lupus and help others financially go through their tough times with this disease. Besides being the CEO of his own organization, Emmett also is involved with other organizations in the autoimmune community. He sits on the board of directors for the Lupus Foundation of Southern California, the Autoimmune Community Institute, and the Color of Lupus in Nevada. He is also co-owner of the Male Advocacy Group and the Lupus Dream Team. And with no further ado, Emmett, welcome and thank you for being here with us today, talking about your journey and also about your nonprofit and all of the support and awareness that you bring to the community.
I just want to say, Juana and Estella, thank you, ladies, so much for having me. It's been an honor since we met back in the day when I first came out. And my first real event was in this picture that you guys are looking at right now. This was at the House Foundation with Kimberly House and meeting you two ladies that we connected before. So it was an honor for me to meet you guys. And I'm glad since then we've maintained the good relationship that we had. Thank you again for having me on.
Yes. Can you tell us, Emmett, where people can find you? I know you raise a lot of awareness and different platforms because, you know, we want to reach as many people as we can. So if you could tell us, you know, all of the social medias, I have the handles here if you guys want to take a screenshot. I also want to invite you all to please, if you are tuning in on Twitter, on Facebook, or on YouTube, this is interactive. Please show us your love and let us know where you're tuning in from in the comments, and we will feature you here during the presentation. We want this to be interactive. This is about you, this is about us, and this is how we can support one another. So Emmett, can you tell us what social media platforms you're on?
Absolutely, absolutely. First and foremost, I created a website just recently, which you guys can finally go to now at malelupuswarriors.org. From there, you guys can read my bio, which you don't need to go that far now because you're going to hear it right now. You can email me at malelupuswarriors@gmail.com, and you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and on TikTok under Male Lupus Warriors. On Facebook is where I have all my friends and family, warriors, supporters, everybody. Look for me on Facebook at Emmett Henderson Iii.
Perfect. And, you know, for those of you that are just tuning in, or maybe the first time that you came across our sites and are wondering, well, what is this lupus? What is this autoimmune condition? Or what is it that you guys are talking about or raising awareness about? We are talking about lupus, and lupus is an autoimmune disease that attacks the immune system. So basically, think about how your system starts fighting viruses. So instead of fighting viruses, it causes inflammation and starts attacking your body. So we have a brief, what is it, like an image here from the Lupus Research Alliance of America, and where it kind of tells you it impacts everything. Now, as we know, this looks like a female body. However, do not be discouraged, because let me tell you, we need to do a lot more and raise more awareness, because even though 9 out of 10 people that are diagnosed with lupus are women, men and children also get lupus. So, you know, it is so interesting now that I'm looking at the image, because in a lot of times, like a lot of clinical trials and stuff like that, you always see a white man's figure, right? And this figure is actually female, which was quite like I was right impressed with this right now. But not only does it affect men, children, and women, it also is 2 to 3 times more prevalent among minority groups like the African American, Hispanic, Latin, and Asian American, Native American, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian, and other Pacific Islanders. And why is it that we are raising awareness about mental health in this month? Is because lupus affects minority groups, right? It also affects our mental health and our body. Approximately 16,000 new cases each year. I mean, can you imagine that? Like now 1 out of 3 people are getting diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. So that's a lot. And there are 4 types of lupus. There's SLE, which is a systemic lupus erythematosus, which Emmett has, and he'll go more into detail in a little bit. And Juana, because Juana also lives with systemic lupus erythematosus. And that's the one that can attack all your body, right? Then we have the discoid, and the discoid is the one that attacks mainly your skin. And then we have the drug-induced, where if you're going to choose any of these, the drug-induced lupus will go away once you start moderating and taking care of the medications and treatments that you have been over medicating your body with. Then you have the neonatal, which is not that common, but still another type of lupus. So with that being said, again, I don't want to bore you with a lot of stats on this, but know that an autoimmune condition is not contagious, that there is no cure for it. However, there are a lot of treatments for FDA now approved treatments since you guys had your diagnosis, because you were diagnosed what year, Emmett?
In 1995, officially.
1995. And Juana, you were diagnosed
in 2009.
Yes.
But yeah, like you said, now that we have 4 new treatments specifically for lupus, well, one's for lupus nephritis, we are happy to know that, the research, the clinical trials and everything, we're coming up with new medication for us lupus patients. We definitely need more research, because a lot of the times the medications that are out there, we still can't, or some of us cannot take.
Right.
Yes, and that includes diverse participation, like including men and minority groups and different backgrounds as well. So that's
Right.
pretty important. Emmett, so now that we know what lupus is, and we told a couple people, what it is, can you kind of guide us through your journey and your story? We have a couple of pictures here, so you can share a little bit about those pictures. But go ahead, the floor is yours.
Absolutely, absolutely. First of all, I love the first one. When from 1970 to 2020, that was actually 2 years ago. So I was 50 years old in that picture and sick half of my life at 27 years of being sick. But you know what? It's like, despite that, look at the 2 pictures. I maintained that smile. I maintained that look despite of it all. So it's why I feel I'm doing what I'm doing today as a male lupus warrior. Back when I was born, up to 10 years old, everything seemed to be fine. I was a normal kid. But then, like you had mentioned, pain and rash, fatigue, fevers started hitting me on the playground as a kid. And I remember I was one of the only kids that couldn't last playing around, always needed to sit down. Then when the rash started developing, that's when the concern came with my parents. So taking me into the hospital to address the fevers and the rash was something that the doctors, they couldn't figure out what was the problem. So of course, Tylenol, skin cover, go home, you'll get over it pretty soon. But Stella, ladies, this happened for over a year. It actually I got diagnosed with fevers and rash of unknown origin because they did not know what it is. It was so bad on my skin where they took a biopsy sample out of my left arm that I still have a good scar to this day, that they still concluded they didn't know what it was. So once it decided to kind of calm down on its own, yeah, life I thought was kind of normal then, my teen years, then my adult years, and then working in my career. When my son was born in 18, my daughter was born at 22, I felt as a minority, as a person of color, that I felt like I was on top of the world. Not only were my 2 kids born, but I owned property at that time. I had a good paying job that was making more than average, pay scale at my age in that year. And then, of course, my cars and everything that I owned. So I thought I was doing well until 1995 when I started having these pains. As a man, we do not go in and say, my wrists hurt, my knees hurt, my shoulders hurt. My position as a service manager in the automotive field, with the responsibilities I had, that wasn't even heard of for me to take time off for that, because I had a big responsibility. So I let it go as far as I could until it got to a point where I couldn't move my wrist one day and it felt really painful. I decided to go in to get checked out. And the only thing that described the pain for me to the doctors was pain. And it only called for x-rays. They did x-rays. And of course, nothing was found. I got sent home. Not even 3 days later, the pains again were in my wrist. I kind of ignored it till one day, about a week later, I ended up waking up out of my bed one day. And as I turned to the side, I fell straight to the ground before I got up because my knees couldn't support me. And the same pain I had in my wrist were in my knees. So I had a friend take me over to the emergency room. By the time I got there, the pain kind of went away and I felt like I was able to walk. So it was kind of embarrassing, and I couldn't explain what the problem was until I said, I'm already here. Let's see what the doctor's got to say. They did x-rays again, same answer. We don't see nothing wrong. I end up walking out of there. I end up going home. I'm going to tell you, ladies, for the next year and a half, I dealt with every pain I got from the joints, only because of the fact that I did not want to get dismissed. I did not want to feel like they think I'm crazy. I did not want to think that I'm crazy because I know what I felt. So it was something I had to embrace and I had to deal with. And I'm thinking maybe it's just my work ethic. Maybe it's because I'm working out. I couldn't explain what it was until the pain started going in my lower back. I knew that I didn't have a joint in my lower back, and the pain was so bad it was hard for me to walk straight, upright. So this time they decided to check blood, and that's when my life changed after that point. I went from urgent care to a Memorial Hospital where 8 hours in urgent care, an extension of 3.5 months in the hospital, just to tell me after many doctors comes in, a rheumatologist finally comes in that I did not even know what that title meant. And she comes in and thinks that I have a disease. And when the question came out for me is, what kind of disease is this, doc? She straight up told me, it is something that is rare for your age, your ethnicity, and your gender. You have a disease called lupus. And I said, what is lupus? And she told me it's a woman's disease. Now, keep in mind, that's in 1995. So I couldn't research it. I didn't have Google at the fingertips. I didn't have a friend next to me that I could say, what is lupus? I never heard of it. So first of all, at my status of where I was, it was hard for me to accept it. I was quick to say, can y'all just give me the pills so I can go home now? And because of that lack of education and that statement, she made me feel like, no, you ain't going nowhere for a while. And that's where the diagnosis came in. The pain that I was having in my lower back, not only was I diagnosed with systemic lupus, but I was in stage 3 renal failure, which is the kidney lupus nephritis. So that's when everything kind of just turned from there.
Wow, a double whammy. So, systemic lupus alone, just, when it's attacking your organs, it could attack any organ in your body. In your case, not only was it rare to see a man with this condition, but to already have, been missed or not diagnosed until it was already too late and you already were at stage 3 of, kidney failure. So, how was it that you accepted? I don't know if you accepted right away, like, this is going to be my life now. Did you get your transplant right away? How did that journey go about your lupus nephritis diagnosis that affected your kidney, which is the systemic lupus affecting your kidney, which is the nephritis part? How did that journey go? Because I know that you've had transplants. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Once they find out that my kidneys were in failure, the amount of steroids that was given to me actually controlled my lupus nephritis and gave some stability to my kidneys. So my kidneys were actually doing okay from there. But then the other organs started to get involved. So lupus decided to attack everything from giving me not only the kidney disease, but liver disease. I had restricted lung disease. I also had liver disease. I also went through problems with my spleen. I also ended up going through problems with my gallbladder. Fast forward to 2012, actually, after being on peritoneal dialysis for a year, my body started to shut down from the peritoneal dialysis. And my brother ended up getting tested, which I decided didn't want any of my family members to test because of the fact that I was the only one I wanted to see go through the hospital procedures, not them. But of course, they decided to go behind my back and get tested. And when they did, my little brother became 100% match from that. However, let me step back a little bit, Stella, because before the kidney transplant, lupus went ahead and attacked my heart. And I had ended up having heart failure. So from that heart failure, and then with the combination of my kidneys failing as well, I was in the hospital for over 3 months. I was induced into a coma where they were literally just trying to save my life. When they told my doctors that I wouldn't make it because of the fact that my heart was slowing down, it was a real turmoil for my whole family for everything that they were going through. What the doctors ended up doing was giving me an experimental drug at the time and procedure that actually turned things around. So I recovered from that. And when I did months later, well, actually, before I got out from the hospital, I had to go to rehab because of the induced coma. I had to learn how to walk and talk and use all my limbs all over again. And when I removed myself from there, then my doctors immediately told me that my heart couldn't sustain another flare the way it did for my heart. So they found the first clinical trial that I had done, and that was a bone marrow stem cell transplant. At that point, I didn't know nothing about clinical trials. All I knew was if this is what's going to save my life, I didn't have much of a choice. I saw the book they had me sign. I'm sure I probably didn't read the whole thing. I'm sure it was like, if this is what you guys think is going to save my life, I did it. I had to talk with my dad. Me and my dad was there together, and I went through with it. So the bone marrow stem cell clinical trial saved my life. It slowed down my aggression that lupus was giving me. Prior to that, one that led to the heart failure was I was in the hospital once a month for 14 months in a row, an average of 2 to 3 weeks of flares. And that's when all my organs were involved. It was the heart that was the final one that the doctors were afraid that I couldn't sustain another one. So I went through the trial, and that literally slowed down my aggression with lupus. But lupus wasn't done. The kidneys were already failing. That's when, not even 2 years later, my kidneys pretty much failed. I ended up having a kidney transplant, my second transplant. And with those 2 transplants, I believe is why I'm here today to tell you ladies my story today and give the world my testimony from a male lupus warrior.
Wow.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I mean, you're such an inspiration, and just to see all that you have been through, and that you're here standing, sharing your story, helping others, means the world to a lot of those who are still struggling to, one, accept or deal with not knowing what to do, and still not being able to assimilate or understand why this is happening to us. And so thank you so much for sharing your story, Emmett.
Absolutely, Juan. I really appreciate that. At the time going through everything, I didn't know that I had a story till I told my story. And I was just trying to survive. I'm just so happy that my story can help others and knowing that there is hope.
Yes, definitely. That's another thing we have in common is hope, right? For us, when Juana was diagnosed, she started knitting, loom knitting, and we knew there was, again, also even in 2009. So I could imagine in 95, no Google. And even when we had Google, Emmett, in 2009, all you found was lupus, there's no cure, and you could die from it. And we were like, what? We don't want my sister to die. So it was really scary. And, living with a condition like this, a life-changing, life-threatening condition, it will take a toll not only on you, but it affects your family and your loved ones as well. As in your case, I know you didn't want your family to donate an organ to you or go through anything similar, but your brother, did it anyway, because that's the love that, we have for each other. That's family, that's unity. And, I think that's one of the things that, we are so grateful that we have each other. You have your family, but a lot of people don't have those loved ones, those people that are there with them. So for those of you, I want you to know you are not alone. There are people like Emmett and his organization and us and other organizations like Kimberly, and everyone else, that there are support systems out there. All you have to do is reach out to us because you are not alone. And I love also on the images that we're showing, Emmett, we have a picture of you at the hospital, and you actually have a tattoo of your organization. I didn't realize on your hand.
That's how much dear it is to me. That's how much it means to me that what I'm doing is not just for me. If I can reach one, then I figure I can teach millions. And as long as my word can get out on what I'm doing as an advocate, and get the word out that, like you had said, that you guys are not alone out there. There are organizations like myself and Looms for Lupus that all you need to do is just reach out. And we are here for that. People ask me all the time, what is that, Tat? Oh, and I love to say, well, I hope you got a second, because you're about to hear, you're going to hear it.
Yes, I love it. And I love that, your family, you engage and you involve all your family. You have, your muscles, you're known as like the muscle guy. Like that's what I usually say, he's the one with it flexing the muscles. But you have a picture here, and, tell us who's here and why is it so important for you to include them also in the awareness that you bring? Because like I said, family does get impacted with a disease like this as well.
So next to the picture of me and my 50-year, should I say, look-alike, that's my little brother, Manny. I mean, without him, I wouldn't be here today. I owe this kid my life. He's my youngest brother out of the 3 siblings that I have. And it was just a miracle that my sister didn't match, my brother didn't match, but my little brother was a match on every single marker to donate me a kidney, which at that point, I was at my last hope. And when they presented to me the fact that he was a match, it just brought tears to the family that I have a chance. And we went through the transplant, and which was in 2013. So I'm a 9-year transplant kidney survivor, which they told me that because of the match of that kidney, we're looking at a 20-year kidney. So I'm going to make this thing last as long as possible. I need to be here.
We got to milk it.
Absolutely.
Wow. So I'm going to pause a little bit here before we go on to the rest of, your journey, and I show the next slides. But I do want to show there's a couple of people. Licie, hi. She actually is tuning in, and I think she understands because she is part of the conversation. Don't know where she's tuning in from. Hola, saludos, caricias. We have Lynn. She says, when I was admitted to the hospital from the ER, I was relieved to be admitted. I thought they would medicate me and it would go away and it would be fine. I also never heard of lupus at the time of the diagnosis. Yeah, that's a common thing we hear a lot about. It's because usually we have this mentality of, if we're sick, right, the doctor gives us medication and then we go home and then it's supposed to go away in 7 days or 10 days or whatever it is. So it's, that's the reality is, and Candace here, Joseph Simeon, is actually tuning in, and she's, I think, saying wow to when you were sharing your journey and your story about what you were going through. And here, Licia says, I respect and admire Mr. Emmett Henderson. So, like I said, it's pretty amazing. Like, you're transcending. We are tuning in, and people understand your story in different languages here. So Rashawn, hi, thank you for tuning in. She says it's a lifestyle, lupus for life. Yeah, it is. We have to. I don't have lupus, but I do see so many people that are living with this condition. You have to continue to keep going. See if there's clinical trials. See if what options you have out there. Lynn says it's such a blessing that you have such a strong support system from your loved ones, Emmett.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lynn. And that matters. That's huge. Huge. However, it can be achieved even without the strong support system.
Yes. And again, and that's why we want you to, that's why we're here. We love to raise awareness. We want to support you. We want you to know that you are not alone in this journey. And Emmett, so, you told us a little bit about your story, your diagnosis, your, lupus nephritis, lupus affecting all your different organs, and then having an organ transplant. And if you're out there, organ donation is huge and it's a big deal. It'll save lives. You were lucky that your brother was able to donate a kidney to you. So that is a blessing on its own. But I know that you are doing a lot more than just sharing your story. You are, raising awareness. So tell us a little bit of the pictures. I was able to capture a little bit of the things that you do, but if you could just run with this and just tell us what these pictures mean or what you're doing in these pictures.
Absolutely. So if you guys have not heard, you are going to want to definitely know that this first picture, To the Rooftop of Africa, I will be in 2 days leaving to Baltimore, Maryland. Well, I will be meeting up with Damian Scott, who has an organization called the Seven Summits of Lupus. From there, me and him are going to connect. We're going to sit down. We're going to get ready to make sure we are prepared for this journey. We are going to Tanzania, Africa, to do a hike up Mount Kilimanjaro. But I'm going to tell you guys, you think that is nice. It's what's we're doing before that I think is what's going to take me. And what we're doing before that is we are going to meet up with some politicians, some rheumatologist doctors, and lupus support group in Tanzania, Africa, to talk about lupus and the disparities and things that whatever inspiration and hope that we can bring to them is definitely what we're doing. The hike is just the bonus, but for me, it's going to be heartfelt to hear what I hear from them. They look at me as a hero from the comments and stuff that they're looking forward to meeting me, but be for real, they are going to be my hero because of the fact of how they're going about with the treatment of their disease as well. So I'm so looking for that. That's me going to Africa. So, I'm sorry, Stella.
I said, that's amazing. You're going to Africa. Emmett is going to be hiking in Africa in 2 days.
And you know, one of the biggest things is when, not if, when we reach the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro, you know, the feeling that I'm going to have that I didn't do this just for Emmett, male lupus warriors. I did it for everybody that thinks that there is some reason why they can't. I want to turn all those can'ts into an I can. And your can be as simple as making it outside your house up the block, because that some people can't even do that. And 10 years ago, even 8 years ago, this not even would have been something I would ever consider that I can do. But you know what? I've turned that can't into I can, and we're going to find out. And I'm just so glad to bring back to the community what the outcome of everything is going to be. I think just stepping in the grounds of Africa for this attempt is a win-win right there. So regardless, definitely. It's going to be a win.
Definitely. Well, I'm excited for you. I have heard a little bit about the 7 Summits of Lupus. I know they're doing amazing work in the community. So I'm so glad that you guys are partnering up and that you are going to be there. And, you know, you're representing a lot of people that, you know, maybe need to see something like this to be empowered and to feel encouraged and to know that it's okay to just hang in there. And despite of what you're going through today, tomorrow could be a better day. There's hope.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you already saw the comment from Lacey Janet Lozada Guadalupe, but what she's saying, she has respect, admiration for you, Emmett. Yes. She said it in Spanish.
And I thank you so much. And my heart goes out to you for saying that. Again, I'm just trying to be, you know, that figure that can just let people know that there is hope. There is hope for everybody, no matter what they're going through or what they're doing. It's a mindset. It is definitely a mindset.
Yes.
And thank you for that, Emmett. Thank you for that, because, you know, that's one of the things that we always talk about. You know, it's not easy. It's not easy. And a lot of the times it might be easy for somebody to do certain things, but not for others. But just, you know, having that hope and that courage and that strength to keep moving forward, doing what you can, doing what you like. You know, absolutely. Just even if it's like you said, even if it's just walking outside your home, or even just getting up to get your cup of tea or coffee or whatever you would like to drink. You know, sometimes that's all that we can do, and it's okay.
Right. That's that. You're absolutely right. It's okay to not be okay. It's one of my biggest things that I say.
Yes, definitely. And then we have Rashawn. She says she was diagnosed in 2003. And, you know, she agrees with what we're saying. Education and awareness is key, especially amongst males. Definitely. And I'm glad that, you know, you're raising that awareness, Emmett, because before you came along the picture in 2019, we didn't know a lot of men with lupus. In our support group, we've had Hispanic men with lupus. And, you know, we've seen, and one of the things that we've heard more often is that it actually is a lot more aggressive in men. So, you know, again, I've heard about this. It attacks so many more organs. It is more aggressive, and a lot of people don't get diagnosed soon enough until they've already have, like, kidney issues, or a major organ is impacted. But you also are known, besides for your muscles, you're also known for the t-shirts you have. I see, like, on the next picture, there's like different little sayings and words to raise awareness on t-shirts that you sell, right? And can you tell us a little bit about that?
I do. I have a line of merchandise of, pretty much of lupus awareness and inspiration. And I put the products out there so it can bring attention to people. I love it when I wear my gear. I mean, I have my logo on my chest, right? There you go, on my chest right now. And when people ask about it, it's a conversation starter. I love to let people know we're bringing awareness. Or when people see me with it, they ask me who else has lupus, and not knowing that it's me myself, but then they see my tat. Now they're like, okay, we know it's you. But I love to bring it. I have, merchandise for men and women. I have a lot of different designs that thank you for everybody that has purchased from me. All proceeds go to Male Lupus Warriors Nonprofit Corporation. And that, of course, is to help people and help me do what I do. Because everything that we all do in advocating, a lot of it is self-funded from ourselves. And putting it out there, I'm on a disability to where I can't afford certain things. So when I'm able to put out product that people like and people, purchase my products, it helps me bring it back to the community is all I'm doing. And so that for me is just a blessing to do that. So yes, thank you so much.
No, well, thank you for raising awareness, and it is an amazing way to start a conversation or to spark that conversation. You also have a support group, a monthly support group, and I believe you're a board member of the Autoimmune Community Institute. So you want to share a little bit about how often you meet, where can people find out about this support group?
Absolutely. So the support group I have with the Autoimmune Community Institute is once a month towards the last weekend of the month, which is, male and female and anybody that just wants to get a word of inspiration. I like doing these support groups because we are all a family in the community. We all feel that sometimes it's hard to talk about what we're going through because people won't understand. In these support groups, we're all like-minded. In these support groups, we've all walked this same journey, but different paths in the same shoes, so we can all kind of relate to what we're doing. So it's a blessing for me to head that with the Autoimmune Community Institute that I am a board of director on. Also, another support group that I also have is with the Lupus Foundation, Southern California, right here in San Diego. I help moderate that on Saturdays and on Mondays. To get interested to be on the mailing list, you can email me. I can help you with that. And then my other support group is with my man with the Lupus Dream Team, Dion Langley. We have a support group where it's just men with lupus. And I'm going to tell you, when I first started this advocating, I was thinking, am I in the wrong business? Why aren't the men answering up? Why? I mean, 80, 90% of the women that's answering my call, but because that's of the predominantly, disease that are affected, but where are the men at? And it just took time. Ladies, fast forward today, we have a good group with men. These men are coming on and they're only saying in this meeting what they're thinking in the general public. They will not talk about these things, but with us, they're comfortable. With us, they can know that if you wanted to shed a tear about what you're going through, I am right here to hold you up. With us, you can open up. It's a safe space. Nothing leaves these meetings. And no, you do not have to feel like you're weak or vulnerable when we have these meetings. So that one is so dear to my heart because my whole mission as a male lupus warrior, putting male in the name of my organization, lets people know that my advocacy is coming from a man with experience with lupus. Because it's funny how in the beginning, who's the one that has lupus? Well, it's me. It's me. It's me. And it's like they don't see that, but now they're starting to know who Emmett is and what my mission is.
Yes, and that's amazing. Well, I could tell you that we do have, a man in the house, and he's been here. He's like, I'm a male living with lupus and additional autoimmune diseases. And, and I think that's the amazing part of it is, you may not have a lot of people that go to support groups, and but when they do find a support group, that is one of the things that we've loved facilitating since 2011. We've been facilitating support groups, and everything that's discussed in these support groups stays in the support groups. And that's the one thing that I love. And yes, there's going to be tears. It's a way for you to talk to others that are living with the same condition that you are, and also understand what it is to be going through that. And then Lynn says, Emmett, you're just the right person going to Africa, gifted with speech and communication. I'm in touch with a young lady in Kenya who said there are a lot of men near her, and in Tanzania with lupus, they have to travel many hours to see a doctor.
Yes.
And that's the sad thing, is there's so many people that are still, having so many issues, and lupus mimics so many other conditions. So to get a diagnosis, it does take a long time. I think it was approximately 6 years for women. I could just imagine for men. And knowing now that there is more awareness, we're doing a little bit now to raise more awareness and being talking more about it. I think more people are getting diagnosed now than before, because if you have 16,000 new cases a year, that means somebody's paying attention to someone here, right? And
Absolutely.
then Rashawn says we have to be proactive and creative. Lupus for life. Yeah, we do. We have to be proactive, because we have the opportunities, we have the sometimes not have the ability to do everything, but the little that we can do does make a difference. So that is an amazing story, amazing journey that you've lived through. And mental health has been something that you have also been advocating about. You've been very vocal about. That's another one of the causes that we talk about. Why do we do this? Is because we knew from the get-go, when Juana was diagnosed in 2009, right, Juana? The treatments that you were on and being diagnosed, it affected your mental health. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not only the treatments, but also just knowing that you have a condition that it's going to be with you for the rest of your life, and you don't know whether you're going to be okay tomorrow. So it does affect your mental health, knowing that your family worries for you. So I mean, there's a lot of I don't want to say reason, but a lot of things that affect us. And I think everyone, the family, for seeing that your loved one is going through the conditions like you mentioned, Emmett. You didn't want your family to get sick or be sick, or even donate
Right.
an organ to you, because you didn't want them to go through the hospitalizations or anything. And for us patients, looking at our family or seeing how much pain that they're going through, I mean, it's challenging, and our mental health definitely is affected.
Yeah. And I mean, just mental health overall, even think about you being healthy even before your diagnosis. Mental health has been there's a stigma around it. We don't really talk about it, but it does affect all of us. We are not feeling okay all the time. So what happens when you're not feeling okay, right? Do you talk about it? A lot of people don't. And before, we didn't really talk about it as much. Now I think we are. And I have these statistics here, and too many people, right, living with mental health issues here in the U.S. It was reported that in 2020 there was approximately one death by suicide every 11 minutes. Now, when we're talking about mental health, I know not everyone has suicidal ideation or thoughts of suicide. However, it is so important to look at the symptoms that you're going through, the anxiety, the depression, and all of that can lead up to this. So when you're looking at, for people aged between 10 to 14 and 25 to 34, suicide was the second leading cause of death. Now, add to that living with lupus or an autoimmune condition, right, and having a life-changing chronic illness that you're in bed, you're in the hospital, you're getting your heart, you're having issues, you're losing kidney function, you have all these things. Maybe you're losing your job. You can't even get out of bed. Like, this is huge. Add on the mental health. Now, from April 2020 to 2021, over 100,000 people died from drug overdoses, right? And why do we include drug overdoses here is because, a lot of times we deal with pain, right? Physical pain and emotional pain. And sometimes, people seek other forms of ways to relieve that pain. So I wanted to show that harsh reality of the America's mental health crisis we're in, and how on top of that, you add on living with an autoimmune condition. Living with a life-changing condition can impact your overall health. Now, July 2021, the National Minority, and I can't even see my whole notes, but the National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month was launched. And this was launched right after the pandemic. Why? Because we wanted to raise awareness specifically with our minority communities. Why? Because we finally, this has been happening, but we finally saw, and our eyes were opened. And when I mean our eyes, I don't really mean ours. I mean everybody's, the world's eyes open to all the inequities that the minority groups have been facing. Now, add on the mental health issues that we're going through, add on living with an autoimmune condition, and you are part of the minority groups who are impacted by these autoimmune conditions, right? Because we just talked about how lupus affects the minority communities. We talked about how it affects your life, how it affects your emotional health, and everything else. So we are raising awareness this month, the month of July, because our minority groups need to feel supported, and we want to support you. We want to let you know that, like Emmett said, it's okay not to be okay. And why lupus and mental health? Well, because lupus can affect your body and your emotional and mental well-being, right? And according to the Lupus Research of America, the neuropsychiatric lupus affects 80 to 90% of people living with lupus. And some of these neuropsychiatric lupus symptoms include depression, headaches, and lupus fog. But you might also want to add on to that anxiety. A lot of people don't talk about the anxious feelings and the anxiety that they feel. 25% of the lupus patients experience major depression, and our 37% have major anxiety. So, giving those statistics, again, you're adding on your minority group, right? And if you're a man, it's like that's like an added bonus there, because most likely you're not going to be getting treatment soon enough, or getting diagnosed sooner than a woman would, right? And then you add on everything that your life has been changed dramatically, and then sometimes the treatments that are helping you may also cause side effects of anxiety and depression. So that is why we're having this conversation today about lupus and mental health, because it is so important to raise awareness about this. Now, one of the things that we have been doing and that we've known about is what? Stress triggers lupus flares, right? So what do? We need to stop stressing, or if we can't stop stressing, let's try and figure out what we can do to relieve some of that stress, so we don't flare as often as you would if you are going through a lot of stress, right? So with that being said, Emmett, you were leading a male mental health support group at one point in the rare disease community. And that was raising a lot of awareness. But I know you also vocally, you talk about dealing with mental health and not in it, and being okay to not being okay. What is it? It's okay to not be okay. There you go.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about mental health. Have you struggled with mental health? Have you faced any challenges?
I think I can honestly say that almost everyone, and from what I'm seeing, and even in myself, yes, we've all struggled through mental health, whether it was dealing with it, whether it was how to deal with it, whether it was which direction to go about it. As a man, we're already known to be the king of our castles, the rock of the nation. You know, we run our families. We're supposed to uphold this image that we are strong. My kids were at a young age when I got diagnosed. So I had to put on that fake smile. I had to put on that cape that wasn't really representing anything at the time because I was so sick, but I didn't let them see that. So am I fooling myself or am I doing the right thing? I had to kind of learn about that. At the end of the day, I ended up knowing that the job that I had at the time, everything that I was doing, I didn't know nothing about this disease. So therefore, I did not want to let this disease take anything away from me. So it was a challenge every single time. However, I grew strong against it. I got to a point to where, I mean, think about how debilitating it can be when you have an organ failure, and just when you've gone through the medication, the procedures, you think you're doing good. Now you got another organ failure. And then same thing in that cycle, failure after failure. I had joint replacements. I thought my shoulder was the only thing going to get replaced. Years later, I had a knee replacement. So it's like I had to have that strong mentality because lupus is so unpredictable that I cannot predict what is going to happen next. But the best thing I can do for myself is be mindful and be ready what it can do to me next. And so therefore, take the precautions of living the perfect lifestyle that I can to help me get past everything, to not make things worse. Like you said, relieve the stress. If it's irrelevant, don't make it relevant, right? We want to just keep that away from us because that those thoughts right there in our mental state can pretty much give us the physical setbacks that we don't need, all because we allowed it to get to our head and we weren't being mindful. Mental
Yes.
health is something I can't express more.
Yes, yes. And the one thing that I wanted to say is if you're just tuning in, we're hearing from Emmett Henderson III, who is a lupus warrior and also leader of the Male Lupus Warrior. Give us your organization's name again. I just had a little fiber fog moment.
Male Lupus Warriors Corporation, nonprofit organization.
Got it. And then Juana, also my sister that is joining us today. But one of the things that I wanted to share is that there are no two people alike that are, that live with lupus. So that's also very important to note. And also know that we here are providing information, sharing our stories, sharing our journeys, raising awareness, but by no means are we doctors. We're not medical professionals, and anything that may have helped us here that we share with you does not mean that it will help you. So please always reach out to your provider and your rheumatologist for treatments that are, or any symptoms that specifically you are being faced with at this time. But I do want to show you guys a video. I hope I'm able to do this. But before I go there, and I think I'm pronouncing his name right, Rashawn. I don't know if I'm doing it right. I'm sorry if I'm
big ups to you, my brother. Big ups to you.
He says, where are the other men? Where are the other men? Where's the support here? Where's the love? Show us the love. But the Us and Lupus website, and I have it here, and the reason I'm bringing it up is a lot of times, we don't have the resources. We don't know. There are so many organizations with so much information. The Us and Lupus website actually has great information about living with lupus and things like financial information, symptoms, living with depression and anxiety when you're living with lupus. So I'm going to try and show you a video from that website. And I love that they have that. We also have it in our resources under Looms for Lupus, but let me see if I could share that video. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can show. There you go. Let me know if you guys can see the screen. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So this is the Us and Lupus website, and they have a lot of information on here, but they go over what depression and anxiety is, and the signs of depression and anxiety. And on here, it kind of describes, anxiety is more than just a temporary worry. A lot of people don't know what anxiety is. So it's a mental and physical response to the fear of something. It includes tension, worried thoughts, physical changes, such as increased blood pressure. Symptoms can interfere with your daily activities, such as work, school, and relationships. And 37% of studies show studies show that 37% of people living with lupus do face anxiety. Depression, another thing we need to get familiar with. What is depression? It's not just feeling sad at the moment for one day or one, due to like a specific thing for a short period of time. It is a series of causes and feelings of sadness or loss of interest in activities that you have enjoyed. So here are a couple of, things to look out for if you've been feeling sad, loss of interest in the things that you love to do, just difficulty thinking, concentrating, maybe thoughts of suicide, feeling worthless, all of these different symptoms, and everyone can have these symptoms differently, and it could portray differently in everyone. So kind of just wanted to go over that. And also about 50% of people that live with lupus have major depressive disorders. And these statistics are, just crazy. No pun intended there, right? Because a lot of people think, oh, you're crazy with mental health. No, you're not crazy. You're actually asking for help and you're getting help. And that doesn't mean that you're crazy. That means that you're taking action. So I want to show you, and I hope that you guys can see this. It's a depression and anxiety video. So I'm going to play that.
Lupus is such a tricky disease. The symptoms can be hard to interpret. So it's easy to ask yourself questions about, well, is this related to lupus? Is this in my head? And those questions are natural to have when things are the emotions that we're experiencing. We can mistakenly disregard them. But it's really important to mention how you're feeling to your doctor, because anxiety and depression are also health conditions. They deserve your attention. You deserve to be happier. Even if you're not sure if what you have is actually anxiety or actually depression, that doesn't matter. If you're having more of those feelings than you're used to having, then it's really important to talk to your doctor. And if your doctor says, hey, I'd like for you to speak with a counselor or therapist who I know has experience with lupus, that's a good thing. And what many, many patients find is when they have an opportunity to speak with a counselor or therapist who really knows lupus or knows what it's like to live with chronic diseases, that person can be an immense help in helping you cope with a very difficult disease.
Yes. And, it's so important to highlight, that there is help out there. Talk to your providers, talk to the professionals, let them know what you're going through. A hotline that, we all have known has been, changed it on July 16th. Now you can actually dial 988 for suicide and crisis that you're going through. They will connect you right away to someone that can help you. And this was such an amazing launch because we have been waiting for this for almost 2 years. With the pandemic, we saw that there was a need the need has been there, but we saw it a little more clearer, and we started seeing movement with a mental health action days, with more mental health awareness, with mental health walks, with more celebrities, and even the president, tweeting and engaging with mental health awareness. But this 988 crisis line launched. So instead of you dialing that long number, the 1-800-273-TALK, now you could just dial 988. It's kind of like the emergency 911 number, but for mental health. So if you are ever in need, know that you can actually call there, and it's all in the United States. So 988 will get you there. You can text, you can call, and you will be connected with someone. And I have to share something. They're there available every 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But the one thing that I wanted to share is usually, and we have like booths, kind of like you, Emmett, and we have health fairs. We provide information, and we were actually at one of the health fairs, and someone came to our booth, and they were not interested in lupus. They were not interested in finding out more information about lupus. It was a young man, and he came by with 2 of his daughters, and he said, I don't want any information. I just want to tell you, thank you for putting that number out there, the mental health number. He said, because that saved my life. I am here today because 14 years ago, I called that number and there was someone on the other line that helped me out. I have a daughter now and another one coming in December, and I'm alive today. And I wish that I could find out who was on that other line because I would thank them. And again, you don't know how you are helping the other person by simply sharing a number, sharing information, sharing your story. And Emmett, your story is an amazing story to share. Your story is very impactful. And not only is it raising awareness in the lupus community, but you're also raising awareness about men living with lupus and empowering people to take action and do what they can to get educated, to be part of this movement. And, it's amazing to see all of your work. It is great that we were able to meet you in 2019. I'm glad we met right before the pandemic. We were able to meet, and you've done so many amazing things. We see you all the time. You're all over social media. But, again, mental health, is a huge issue that we all are battling with. And I hope we can end the stigma. And I hope today, with your story, Emmett, and with highlighting how lupus affects not just our communities, not just our men, our women, our children, but how it also affects our mental health in our minority communities. We need to raise more awareness and end the stigma because, if you're living with an autoimmune condition, it is life-changing, but we want you to know it's not the end of the world. I want you to know that we are here to support you.
Thank you. Thank you, Emmett. And just, your story gives hope to others. That's one of the things that when I was just diagnosed and we started the support group, there was a lady that came and shared her story about how long she was living with lupus. And the first thing that came to tears, I cried. And the first thing that came to my mind is like, I have hope. I am going to be able to live a little longer than I thought after my diagnosis. So your story definitely gives hope to a lot of people out there.
I thank you guys so much. Thank you so much. It's what I always tell to everybody. It's like what I do for the community is not to show you how I did it, is to show you that you can do it. And that's a big difference. People can see what I do and be inspired about it, but I want that to be a reflection of what you can do. And when I made the comment earlier that my impossible is climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, your impossible could, like I said, go down the street or getting out the shower without being tired. Accomplish that, you're winning. That's it. There is nothing that says you can't do it unless you tell yourself that. Don't be your worst enemy. You're not on a timetable to do anything at anybody's pace but your own. And when you have this disease, this lupus, and I know everything that I talk about now is what I had to experience and learn from back in the day. I was that guy that kept it in. I was that guy that, did not want to talk much. But at the same time, in my defense, there was nobody to talk to about it at the same time. So now that I'm at where I'm at now, if I can do whatever, just like you ladies that are putting out their information on lupus, resources, you are not alone. It's okay not to be okay. These are affirmations that need to spread across the community with any type of illness that you have, because you as a human matter. And everybody needs to know that.
Yes, that, you said it well. And again, thank you for being with us. Lynn says, thank you, Looms for Lupus, for wonderful talk. Thank you, Emmett, for sharing your story.
Love
It's,
you, Lynn.
again, yes, it's so amazing. And I'm just glad that we were able to, again, talk about lupus and mental health, talk about your journey, your amazing story. And there's a lot more to come, right, Emmett? So we are
Absolutely.
hoping to have you when you get back from Africa, so you can tell us all about, I can't even say the name of the mountain you're going to climb, but let alone climb it. So I want to hear all about it when you get back, because you owe us that conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to connecting with you ladies again.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you, everyone that tuned in.
Thank you, everybody.